Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classics, Non-Classics. This is episode number 3463 and Doubleshot 3357. Sorry it's been a few days since I last did one for this one. It's just that my voice right now is getting a little better, so I didn't use no problem. And plus, there's other stuff. That's the reason why I do it now. We have two DC trays. One I bought last week, but I decided to wait to get another DC tray to do alongside with this one. And this being the first of a brand new Superman series. First new one in quite a while. Yes. This is called Superman Unlimited. Now, when I first heard about this title being announced, I'm like, and who the writer is, who's Dan Slott. I'm like, okay, interesting. Not a bad choice. He's not a terrible writer. It just at times he stays in the book a little too long in the tooth. But and so this was launched as last year as part of the Summer Superman initiative. Of course, they also had the Superman House of L limited series by Phil Kennedy Johnson, which I think was his last book he did for DC, alongside finishing his run for Batman and Robin. Yeah. I think this is the first spin-off ongoing series for Superman, in that a Superman title in quite a while. I'm trying to think that's a solo Superman title. Trying to think here. You think, what about Supergirl? No, that's a character spin-off, but Superman himself. I'm trying to think here. Because most of he's had team of books, like there's been Batman Superman, obviously. There's been Batman Super World's Finest, Superman Wonder Woman, Trinity, but solo-wise, I'm not going to venture Superman because that's Ultimate Continuity. By Prime Continuity, I think this may be the first time since, I would probably say this is probably the first new spin-off ongoing for Superman. I'm not counting Unchained because that was limited to series. I'm trying to think here, what was the last one that did this? I think it may have been that was an ongoing series. I would count Man of Tomorrow, but that was a quarterly book. But last monthly one, I would probably say it was Superman, the Man of Steel. Top of my head, it was the last one. So this book contains the first 6 issues of this brand new ongoing series. Yeah, fresh new number 1 for Superman in years. That's not a relaunch of his title. So, first time since Man of Tomorrow. I remember it was quickly, but the first monthly ongoing Superman. First time since Superman and Steve released in 1991. Yeah, of course, Robert Albuquerque and the artwork. Now you're probably thinking, why wouldn't Superman have more than one title? I'm guessing because, and this is my personal theory on the matter, I think because higher-ups DC probably were not interested in it at all. No, it's like, once Infinite Crisis wrapped up, they just ended it to Superman, and also Superman Volume 2, well, was basically never being, well, Volume 1. I think because, just like I keep saying, the reason I think of is probably because DC higher-ups were just not interested at all. It's like, we'll get Batman all these spin-off ongoings, but not Superman. Nope. Oh, by the way, Lucas Meyerco does issue 4, and Mike Norton does issue number 6. So you're a brand new owner of the Daily Planet. Yep. Which is interesting. It's like, yeah, they're expanding, and apparently it's been bought by a woman named Imani Edge, who was Morgan Edge's ex-wife. There's all mentioned about Galaxy Corporation. Like, okay, that's interesting. The whole thing of the Galaxy Communications thing, that was something Morgan Edge did come up with. Morgan Edge has not been a big character in Superman comics in years. But prior to this, the planet was owned by, last I heard, Jimmy Olsen, who bought it from another woman which no one knew who this woman was. Like, they said she was new owner, where she came from, never. It's like that was all Bendis was doing. Could you probably say this is Dan Slott undoing something Bendis did? Kind of, yes, but it's more like Slott embracing classic Superman continuity. But more in the vein of the late more in the vein of the Bronze Age continuity. The Bronze Age era for Superman, basically the late 70s. With the whole galaxy communication, which actually did ultimately play the period of time. And Clark Kent was, in fact, he was a TV reporter. So basically expanding, of course, Lois is still in charge. Thank you, Josh Thompson. Yeah, and I do appreciate, though, that Slott is still keeping Lois Lane still the editor-in-chief of the paper, the Planet, because I'm guessing that, of course, you have Ron Trimble here, which is interesting because I don't think he had ever been featured. I think he was featured maybe a few times, but he's probably featured in this book. And that's Ron Turpie. Yes. Now, Ron Turpie is a long time Superman supporting character, which I think, like, prior to this series, the guy had not been featured very much at all. Not really, no. As for the reason why, I think, my guess, lack of interest. Yeah, I think also because he's probably a character that you might think, does he pop up in Josh Williams' Superman book? I don't think he does. Steel and Bart does. The sports board, yeah, he does. Ron Trippy. Well, he did debut at the start of the current continuity. And you can thank Jerry Ordway for creating this character. First appearance, Superman, 480. So, you're probably thinking, yeah, his appearances were not a lot per se. Like, in the case of, like, the President, he was there for a little bit. He was there for, like, almost all the issues that he disappeared for. I mean, he was there. Definitely. He did miss one issue of this, but this book is probably the most recent book he's featured. I mean, the thing is, pre-Flashpoint, he was a heavily featured character. Nowadays, he's very rarely featured. Excuse me. Yes. Also, did you know he was once married to Lucy Lane? Yes. Yes, indeed he was. Which, they got divorced. Yeah. And they had a son who disappeared. Yeah, it's weird with their son. Yeah. But Ron Trippy featured in 135 different comic books throughout from his debut up until recently. You gotta say, that's actually not bad. He featured heavily in Action Comics, in not a lot in Superman per se, but a lot in Action Comics, and Adventure Superman, Man of Steel. It's like he was a prominent character for the spin-off books, but not Superman itself, but in my opinion, great, always see him. So, and of course, basically, he's like, of course, you have Superman being Superman, like catching a criminal. And of course, basically, then the thief who got caught. And I do appreciate this, like, okay, so then we all the way Superman signed up with basically rhubarb, like steel. And of course, basically, got someone to say, Superman, I'm all ears. Remember last week when you stopped that giant ape from crushing Star City? Titano, yes I do. Well, my Aunt Dottie lives in Star City, so I want to say thanks. Anytime. Dude, quit it, you're embarrassing me. Watch it, my favorite aunt. I appreciate that. That was actually quite nice of a criminal actually thanking him for saving another city because his aunt lives there. I'm like, you ever heard of any time any character doing that? Plus, leather shot and flying, and then of course he's somebody helping a child help me who fell into a lion's den, and you see him saving a plane, saving a boat, donating some money to help this girl get some, probably go somewhere, get probably a music career. Then he pays a visit to the Watchtower. You can thank Dan Moore for designing this awesome thing. And we see here a Elongated Man, Black Canary, Green Arrow, sad to see his ongoing series ending, and Red Tornado. Yeah, not Martian Manager, Red Tornado. And basically they're informed like, oh crap, there's this big, humongous chunk of kryptonite. This thing is the size of the moon. He hits it. He does hit the world. There's a flashback to his origin, like see his powers and yeah, and showing everything off, and really cool the fact he did this. And there's like a tease of like the Legion of superheroes. I'm like, that is so awesome. And seeing the statue, which is actually from Superman 424. Look it up. He finds the fortress and see Perry White in the flashback here with Lex. We see a lot of his classic villains: Darkseid, Toyman. Looks to be Livewire mixed with Bizarro, Parasite, Brainiac, with Hawkgirl, Flash, in the current look, Santana, Wonder Woman, Supergirl, Martian. I think that's Jon Stewart, and Batman. This Toyman is based on the animated series. I think this was the first time they featured this version of Toyman. Yeah, which I found that to be interesting because I would have never thought of all people, Dan Slott for embracing the version from the TV show. Because I don't think they've ever featured that version of Toyman before. Not that I could think of, no. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. So, and then of course, you have flashback when he proposed to Lois, reveals identity to her, fought Doomsday, died, came back. Plus, loved a little nod to Reign of the Superman. It's like Sly is like acknowledging, yeah, these events happen. I'm not ignoring them. So then, of course, basically, we see Krypto, and then he wakes up. Apparently, oh yeah, he's been out for 3 months. Oh yeah, and the fact they had a cover story by having Martian Manhunter pose it, good on him for doing that. And then Batman's here, and then we see, well, for some reason, whoever put this strip back put Vixen on the fold, which I'm like, you can't really see her, but yeah, Vixen's in the crease. She's right in the middle of the page. I'm not really sure why they did this how they put this trade together, but she's there. Aquaman, Captain Marvel, not Shazam, Batman, obviously, Mr. Terrific, Big Barda, and Plastic Man. Oh yeah, apparently in 3 months, a whole country built on Kryptonite technology is basically sprung up. That ship El Carrito, and Connor and Kira are injured. Plus, you gotta love the fact Kira is wearing this outfit now, which shows off for her, basically her belly. And then we have Slott do something that, from what I can tell, this was something that was a new 52 concept that he decided to bring in for some weird reason. And that being the solar flare. Now, this is not an old concept. This is a new concept brought back here for reasons, per se. It's not exactly very clear. of why in the world they brought back this power. Yes, and they're giving it to this version of Superman. Okay, the golden form is actually from DC 1 million. Okay, I thought it was an Infantry concept. My mistake. So apparently, they just retell his origin from the 80s to present day. But you probably think, like, reading this, you're like, why the heck would Slott just basically just read? Because here's the thing, Dark Knight's dead. Now apparently the whole thing was unknotted. So apparently, in case you're curious though, Deathman I think came out in 2021, I believe it was. No, 2020. Yeah, something came out almost 6 years ago. Well, last year would have been about 5 years, but why in the world would they decide now to do this? No idea. So, and then we go back to Metropolis of June of 1938, when the Daily Planet is being built, and then we see the planet in Gotham City, Markovia. So, the whole thing in 1938 thing, that's probably a nod to Superman's debut year. Of course, they don't say Superman was here per se, but interesting that Slott is like, you could say that Slott is acknowledging the pre-Flashman continuity here in a slightly different way. Yeah, gotta appreciate the fact he's doing that. And I mentioned, oh yeah, the whole thing with the currency, and love the fact that on the currency, it's the cover for on this $100 bill. It's the first issue of Superman, which good on him for doing that. And also, for some reason, these guards are Krytonite guards, and they're being hunted by Checkmate people. Yes, Checkmate. Then we see Jack Ryder, aka the Creeper, and then for some random reason we see Knockout here. And you're thinking, why the heck is Knockout in this book for? Isn't she reformed and married to two women? Yes. This was kind of in a way her first appearance in a Superman book. Well, she did debut in Superboy, so you could say Slide just acknowledging, of course, she's here. And then, of course, basically just takes in with the, of course, all the Kryptonite bullets. A bunch of Kryptonite now, and of course, the Creeper who takes out one of them. And the whole thing of the Golden Power thing. So it's there, and then, of course, basically then she just surrenders easily. Creeper takes out one of them. And then, of course, then we have where... Oh, then we have the Toyman here. Yeah, the Toyman. At the end of issue 2. And then, of course, we got a recap of the time when Krypto first showed up. A different version, how he's not expected. It's more focused on this issue, focused on Krypto. And, of course, basically take on Toyman. Yeah, we just deal with Toyman this issue. And deal with the... He's here for this one issue. Yeah. And then, of course, we got the issue, like, that was like one issue. So then we have a bunch of Man-Bats. Yes, Man-Bats. And Jimmy, of course, is in Gotham City, of all places. Yes, Gotham City. Because why not? And of course, you have Damian here. It's nice the fact we have Superman in our play that's not. Of course, you also have Damian here in his current costume. He's like the whole thing of maintaining Man-Bats. Of course, you also see appearance by the Birds of Prey, which is this big bar like Cassie Kane and Black Canary in a different outfit. Because in the first issue, she's wearing her outfit was Green Arrow. This is her Rebirth costume. Yeah, no explanation for this. It's just, yeah, let's just have a Batman issue because I'm sure that probably, and this is my personal matter, that. Oh yeah, and also Damien's like, oh, can't be here in this cave. We see all these E's and letters, whatever. Yeah, I'm sure this is probably slot really more like Batman. So then, of course, basically the whole. Then we have Superman finally go in the last couple issues. Go visit the country that's based on technology. And of course, they accept him, no problem. Because they don't like Ron Turp because they think he's a spy. And it's all about the son Crystal, and of course, he thinks that the Krytonite legacy is his. And when you bring back the Superman mobile, and you're like, what the heck is a Superman mobile? Well, that was something that, by the way, it's not Dan Slott's. It's not his creation. Oh no. Like, this was something that was created back in the late 70s. The Supermobile, which prior to this did appear in the opening issue of the current Superman book. It did, probably for a cameo. Yep, as a cameo. You could say this is the first proper appearance of the. Of course, it. You could say, oh, of course, it did kind of appear, and also in. Danny of Batman Superman. Kind of, yes. It's all over the place, but this is more in its, basically in its Bronze Age look. Yeah. So, he's hurt, and, of course, to deal with these crystals, and of course, to deal with, like, all this other stuff here. Ron Champion is here, and of course, they get all the guards out. And they can't use the staff because it's Kryptonite stuff, because it's hurtful against Superman. And he's kind of the country's greatest hero. Looks like he's actually American. And then he just sits in his own version of the Fortress Solitude, made entirely of Krypton. I think he's the king of Krypton. It's like, yeah, and of course they all go home. And then we cut to Smallville, where we see Lana Lang, John Henry, and John Kent. This book overall was awesome. Dan Slott did an amazing job with this book. Give this book roughly a 9 out of 10. Next up we have is Absolute Flash, Volume 1 of Two Worlds. Yeah, it's a nod to Flash 123. The title anyways. This is written by Jeff Lemire. Art by Nick Rubes. Collects the first 6 issues of The Flash. Now, they basically have it where in here, like, Barry is kind of the Flash. Like, yeah. So you start out with basically, it looks like Wally in the desert. And it's basically him. And focus on him for a little bit and focus on switch over to Barry. He just witnesses a lot of this stuff. Oh yeah, and also cool because Wally's bored, so he breaks into the facility, and then we see a version of the Rogue show up, where, okay, so this apparently is Captain Boomerang. I'm guessing based on the attire in front. This guy here must be Captain Cold. This could be Golden Glider. No idea who the Pumpkin Girl is. Oh yeah, it's obviously Cold because of the glasses. Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah, I can't talk to Barry for some reason, and of course, basically, Barry gets caught up in this whole mess. Then Barry dies, so Wally becomes a Flash. And basically, he takes on this world's version of Rogues. Says leave him alone, they get shocked. And then we see, looks like that Barry's put on a suit. It's like something's going on with Wally. And, well, then he goes to the future and comes back. And it feels like absolutely like a very good take on Flash. It's really cool. I really enjoy this. And the book has a weird ending to it. So it just Flash versus a version of the Rogues. And I mentioned about Grodd. Oh yeah, Grodd's escape. Grodd apparently is a small monkey. Yep. Not a gorilla, it's a small monkey. Yep. Yeah. And then he puts on a Flash costume. Then whole thing with Wally, and then where he basically finds a ship, touches it, and they bring up Iron Heights. Yeah, and this issue is all about the Rogues. Where they got their powers. Oh yeah, and then of course you have Rudy talking to his son in the bunker, the Fort Fox bunker, and then he's knocked out by the one running the place. I gotta say, this book was actually pretty cool. I actually enjoyed this one. Also, 9 out of 10. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe to notifications. Well, I have a stream to do about 13 minutes, so probably see you at the stream. Okay, next video. Bye.